we go.
Good morning. Welcome to Unity Spiritual Center, Pflugerville. And what we're talking about today is, in the beginning was the Word. And we're going to develop this because we are right in the middle of words right now. Everybody agree? If you understand AI is words. Okay, and it's just a computer going out and picking up words from everywhere and amalgamating them and then bringing them when you ask a question. So it's changing everything very quietly, and we're going to talk about that today. But I do want to get into the idea of the Word. Okay? Now, one of the fascinating things is to understand that everything has a word. Stop and think about this. There is nothing in our world that doesn't have a name. We are driven. We get a pet, we're driven to give the pet a name. Yes, we don't just call it dog, although some will. So the idea is everything has to be identified and called and actually brought into form. We even name stars that are millions of miles away. Okay, so everything in our world we have named, and we have a word for it, and we use that word to communicate. And for example, I see a chair with a cushion on it, right? Anybody agree? You can see chair. Now, when I say chair, you might have different pictures of a chair. However, the word forms a picture in your mind, which then creates a radiation of chair. So our minds are processing words and converting words into pictures, and then using those pictures to think, if you will. So it's a very, very interesting conversation. And John 1:1 opens, and by the way, John, the book of John in the Bible, New Testament, is one of the more mystical chapters in the Bible. And the whole thing begins, in the beginning was the Word. And if you go back and look at Moses asking God, what's your name? And the name finally came out, I am that I am. And how did you describe that? With a word. So everything is a word. And if you stop and think about this, we are saying the picturing power of the mind brings things into form. So do you see the correlation that in the beginning was the Word? The words kept more and more meaning and kept creating more and more of consciousness or our world, so that everything, the energy is of God. Now, I'm trying to be logical in this conversation. And the heart is not logical. The mind is logical, the heart is not. So we're going to be talking about that now. And this week, I was in a workshop for 2 or 3 hours. And it is a spiritual leader that's looking at AI, or artificial intelligence. And it's a very, very interesting thing. And I hadn't thought about this, but I've been dwelling on it. And maybe you can help me put it together. But if you look at artificial intelligence, it's really just a computer program that accumulates information from the world around it. And the more it brings information in, the more it amalgamates that information and creates a database of ideas, okay? And then when you ask a question, it assimilates all those words and gives you an answer, okay? What does the mind do? See, the mind is a storage base of words and pictures that works together and comes up with conclusions and thinks. So the mind is a rational, not intuitive, logical, step-by-step process. Now, what do we measure intelligence on? If I say I have an IQ of whatever, what does that measure? It measures what I know. Okay? And the more you know, the more you accumulated in the database, the higher your IQ is. It doesn't talk at all about emotions, doesn't talk about at all about heart. It is strictly rational accumulation of information. And it's interesting, all of a sudden I realized that what's happening is, and what this class was teaching was, that sooner or later, the computer is going to have an intelligence of 1,000, if I can use that terminology. In other words, it's accumulating more and more information. So it will, in essence, be smarter than us. And I've never thought about that. To me, it was I thought that was part of the conspiracy ideas, but I'm starting to realize this. And I'm going here, okay? And this is Charles Fillmore. Okay? I'm going back into basics. And Charles Fillmore, I'm gaining more and more respect for him. Frankly, I am. And he is saying a new era has dawned. Okay. Now this was written when? Back 1930, 1940. New era has dawned. The old is passing away. In the advent of the new dispensation, the heavens are rolled up. It is revealed the long hidden realm of causes. Invisible forces are always the most powerful. So what is an invisible force? See, we live in a physical world, and everything is physical, and there's a physical force. In other words, if I want to move this, I move it from here to there. That's a physical force, yes? Anybody move it with their mind yet? So those mental forces are stronger and more powerful, and they are invisible. And what is their base? Where do they start? Where do they come from? Okay? So the mind is the domain of rational thinking, logical thinking. Step one, and by the way, 1 and 1 is 2. Anybody agree with that? And 2 and 2 is 4. And that's logical thinking based upon scientific information. And once I prove this, I can go to this. So we always need a primal spot to start, and then we build on that, what we call intelligence. But it's all facts, okay? So, as far as I know, anybody here used AI so far? I've used it. It's kind of fascinating, and it really is creative. It's great. However, it doesn't. To me, it doesn't have heart. If I can use that terminology, it doesn't. Now, how do you know that, or how do I know that? Okay, and see, this is what we're now faced with, okay? So I'm going to go on. So now this is Charles Fillmore talking, 50, 60 years ago, okay? Invisible forces are always the most powerful. The dynamics of mind control the universe. In mind originates all that is, okay? By its actions, all things are moved. When a man understands the laws of mind, he has solved the mysteries of the universe. So what is the domain of spiritual ideas of love? The heart. And what we're learning is the heart language is completely different than the mind language. Those of us that are in the course of love, which we talk about, Larry's with us on Wednesday mornings. It's fascinating. People get all upset because they can't understand what it's saying. I got into just a slight conversation with somebody this last week that they kept asking the same question over, but I don't understand. I don't understand. The language was language of the heart. It wasn't language of the mind. 1 and 1 doesn't equal 2 at the heart level. Okay. There's a new language at those levels, and that language is heart, is love, joy, peace, harmony. Anybody agree? How do you define joy? Somebody define joy for me. Help me. How do you describe and put a ribbon around and say, here it is. This is joy. Do you see? It's an invisible, ethereal, energy related that is not part of the domain of form. Okay, so what does this mean? And I'm getting, and now understand, I'm going way out because I'm realizing this. It's time for us to find our voice. Each of us is living our own world of, oh my God, I can't talk about that because nobody will like me. Oh my God, I can't talk about that because I might be criticized. We're wrapped into this, am I good enough? We're wrapped into all these words that are given to us to diminish us, okay? Now, Spirit is saying what? Go for it. So we're reaching a point in life now where it's time to find our voice. I've been aware of a voice that says, well, you're starting to reach a point where maybe you need to slow down a little bit. Yes? Or maybe women shouldn't do that. Or I shouldn't dress that way because, we make all these choices that are not heart language. They're language created by the world around us. And it gives a definition of something that I have to do. So it's time, in my opinion, to find our voice of who we really are and speak it. Okay, some of us have been putting things off for years. Oh, I'll tell you, so anybody familiar with Someday I'm Going to? Someday. I'll get around to that. Someday I'll do that. It's time, okay? I'm reaching the point where enough's enough, and I'm talking to myself, and I'm hoping that my voice is starting to come out. And you have a voice. Each one of you have a voice. That voice might be music. That voice might be cooking. That voice might be whatever it is, but it's time for that voice to come out. See, that voice cannot be translated into artificial intelligence because that voice is your heart. That voice is who you really are. That voice is what you're here to do. That voice is you moving forward. And I have found more reasons not to do something. Okay? Or they might not like me, or I'm stuck in this situation. Or here I am in Austin, Texas. I laugh about that. Okay? And it's like, well, maybe I'm going to move. That's crazy. Okay? Yeah, it is. Every reason for not moving comes up because I'm happy here. Okay? But there's times when things happen and it's time to move forward in a new voice, whatever the voice is. Okay? My belief is that we are in that tipping point. Paul and I were talking, Larry and I were talking, some of you are talking, things are going up and down, right? There is more turmoil now. Yeah. We can't we are polarized as human beings, just on beliefs. And it's all words that define a position. It's not heart language, okay? So what is the truth? The truth is, if I am living in love and speaking my truth is I'm a child of God. As a child of God, everything's cool. And I use the vernacular on purpose, okay? But it's okay. It's okay. And the truth is, what is your voice? It's the little voice in your mind saying, well, I'm too old to do that. My chance passed me by 30 years ago, or I've been stuck in this situation for 20 years. I have never find a way out. I'm just going to have to live this way. Okay? And I'm just speaking from my heart, okay? Because we all have those situations. And where are we going? What are we doing? Everybody's out there fooling themselves in this little conversation that occurs. Okay? So what is your voice? What is my voice? Where are we going? What are we going to say? And I'm firmly convinced that once we find our voice of who we really are and what we're here to express, life changes. Now, you see, the mind is like artificial intelligence, just keeps generating what you ask it. And it keeps generating yesterday's stories. And yesterday's stories usually don't work out because it's like, anybody familiar with loops? Computers have loops. And what happens to it is you put something in it and all of a sudden it goes back and then repeats itself. And repeats itself. And part of that is, well, I can't do that because, well, I can't do that because, And so we have loops in our brain that the artificial intelligence part of our brain keeps creating instead of getting it corrupted or incorrupted by the Christ mind. See, what we were trying to do earlier in the healing was create an energy of consciousness, because the idea that we are family, that's why we use that word, because we are here as an energy to support each other in finding out who we really are. Okay? Got you stirred up, I hope.
It's interesting, and I know Paul knows a lot about AI, and I know that you know a lot about AI just with research. But the way that I understand it is, it's what the purpose is to present facts.
Yes. Yes.
Then our responsibility is, I woke up this morning, and the fact was I got an email from one of my executives that somebody else had told me that he was being booked at a hotel, and he actually was booked at a hotel. And so my immediate thing was like, oh, what? And then my brain starts going, and then I just had to kind of stop back and go, okay, these are the facts. How
Good.
am I going to respond to this? Am I going to let this get me sucked into upset, or am I just going to go, you know what? It's all okay. He's fine. I let the planners know, hey, look, you provide this information. He actually someplace it right. Because I'm sitting here trying to go, okay, well, how is this important to me? And I think the thing is that the information we're given from wherever, it's our responsibility in how we respond to and what we do with that.
Yes. See, this is what's happening. And I didn't want to get too far into it, but the idea behind it is that we are being presented facts as reality. Okay, so if you the facts, unfortunately, sometimes can be misconstrued, and it's like in a conversation. If I'm having a conversation with you, Valerie, okay, there are words between the words. In other words, the words communicate something, but behind everything is what's being communicated without being communicated. Okay.
So it's really important for us to be about.
Yes. Okay. Now, and the truth is, see, we go back to the truth. Primal cause is what I think. And when I'm in my Christ mind, I create only the Christ mind ideas. Okay, which is very difficult because the rational mind says no, that there's nothing that influences me. But the truth is, I am spirit. Okay? And I've been sold a bill of goods that I can't be that. And I've been told by fundamentalist churches that I'm going to hell because I don't. Okay? So there's all this underneath. And I'm trying to describe it. But it loses it. Okay. So the point is, it's like back in my fundamental stages, they would talk about being filled up with God. So it's literally being filled up with language that is productive. In other words, in the beginning was the Word. Okay, the word is my wand. In other words, I create with my word and what's behind my word. Okay, and the word isn't just facts. We got to get into the word of the heart language. So there's definitely almost a bipolar situation going on there. Okay, and it's getting what some of them are now. There's all kinds of conspiracy ideas. Okay, and political parties are using it to influence, et cetera, et cetera. And it's true, it's going on. However, we can discern it if we're in spirit. So, and it's like everything is saying. I'm reading another book. And I've shared this with you. Okay, The Age of the Heart, which is talking about how we're getting into the heart. Okay, and I think I used this last week. But he's very clearly saying my artificial intelligence classes. You understand this is a form of artificial intelligence. It came apart. That's exciting. Okay.
You want my glasses?
Yeah. Now, I know this is not comfortable for everybody. I know that. Okay? And we either speak the truth or we don't. Okay? And it says here, let me reveal something vitally important to this work. For a long time, the human being has slowly reducing the contamination of the universe with its consciousness. You understand, we as human beings, when we think things that aren't in the heart, we're contaminating the overall oversoul of the universe. Okay? So everybody wonders, where is all this stuff coming from? It's us as a group creating that. And then it goes on and says, and is heading for a time when it will no longer pollute. So we are in a consciousness change. And look at what's going on. In other words, we're going to be forced to be more and more in the heart. And that's what's going on. And in my opinion, that's why things are getting more and more difficult, because they need to be cleaned up, and it's time for spirit to unload, to get rid of the pollution that's in the environment. Larry?
So, you're talking about AI is...
And it's just an idea, but what I'm saying is, hey, look at this. They've been talking about change for years, and here's the physical thing is doing it. Go ahead.
So you've seen AI is based on words, ideas. So at the cutting edge of AI can create new songs.
Yep.
It can create movies. But they're all based on analyzing stuff out of the past.
Yep.
So one of the most popular ones that created a song by John Lennon. You listen to it, you get it. So the question is, we can't tell what is real anymore. They can create something that looks perfectly real, but it's not.
See, that's the point.
I was reading an article how they're creating stories about people, so when someone dies, you can actually have a conversation
Yes.
with that person after they've died.
Yeah, they are busy creating movies with people that have passed away. Okay, so now the key is, what did you say? The only place you get information to do that is from things from the past. So it's creating the past. And what is the problem we're dealing with? Creating our past over and over again through the psychological loops in our brain. So it's time to load up a different brain. Okay? And that is, I'm right back to, how do you describe love? You talk about love. Anybody agree? Love's a big word. What does it mean? How do you describe it? See, anything that's important enough in the energy field, you can't nail it down. Okay, joy, peace. I still believe most of us don't, and myself, I don't understand peace. What would it be like to be peaceful with nothing to do? You hear that, with nothing to do? So these definitions are unclear. And when you get into spiritual ideas of positive words, how do you define them? And the world, the rational brain, has no comprehension for that. So there's a new language, and that's what we're doing now. So it's like my affirmations are changing. I am love, joy, peace, and happiness. I am rich, well, and happy, and every phase of my life is in wonderful alignment now. Okay? Because that's the energy that I believe. That's where I want to go. Okay? And as a group, see, the world's complaining about everything, yes? I admit I read the newspaper, okay? And I can't wait to hear what other people say. And I do amalgamate it. Anybody agree with that? You look at it, you know, everybody's opinion, and then you come up with your opinion. But what does the heart say? What do you really believe? Okay. I want to, you read any romantic novel or any movie that has a rom-com kind of thing in it, there's all this stuff about love, but how do you define when love occurs? Go ahead, Paul.
I want to build off of that outlook. Why does a love story matter to us? Whether it's a book or a movie, it's because of what it does in our heart.
Yep.
It's an emotional, and I think that's the piece, whether you're talking AI or we're talking here. If we stay in logic, we're staying not only in the past, but we're staying in mediocrity. But how we connect to the divine is through emotion. That's where our consciousness is. And that's the piece that AI has not figured out how to truly replicate. That's the piece that makes, that's how we define love. It's not about what Webster said it was.
No.
It's about what the emotion is that stirs from within that comes to that and then attaches to some word in our head. The problem is we've been taught, particularly as Westerners, that logic is good, emotion is bad. And particularly for the men, we've been told since we were infants, emotion equals bad.
Don't cry.
Don't cry, don't emote, don't even acknowledge that it's there. So what we've done is basically said, deny the fact that the word is within you in your heart. Deny the fact that your conscience, your God, your love, your joy, your peace is there.
Thank you. This is the point that I've gotten. And that's what the mind does. The mind gets rational. It does exactly what you're talking about. Okay? And so we don't understand that. But the truth is, and the word is feelings. So what is a feeling? How do you describe a feeling? Larry, it's great. It really is.
Well, Charles Fillmore was describing universal mind.
Yep.
First thing we go to is thoughts, thinking mind. The universal mind works through the heart.
And what we were singing is we are one heart. Okay, so we are one heart beating as the universe. That's hard. You can't even visualize that. You know, how can I be part of what is it, 9 billion people? It's beyond our comprehension. However, that's the spiritual conversation we're talking about. So and the reason I'm bringing this up now is, where do we go? How do we use this? Okay? How do I presence myself, and what do I do to work with what's happening? Okay? And we go right back to the basics: meditation, quiet time, hanging out with people that think the same way, so I'm not polluted. Okay, and is that ego? No, that's just protection. Okay, and all the other issues, and start talking to myself in a positive, generally loving way, and use only words of love. So we're right back into love, joy, peace, harmony, okay, versus the other words over here: anger, hate, all that stuff. Okay, so it's becoming aware. It's becoming aware. Okay, why did I say that? Was I here or was I here? And it's being very clear why I do what I'm doing. And listening to the little voice that tells me I can't do it, because it might be trying to hold me back from being over here. Good. Somebody else.
So how do you get your mind to cooperate?
Train it. It's like a dog. Anybody ever had a puppy? How do you get a puppy to do what you're doing? You keep doing it over and over. And you retrain it, and sooner or later it goes, oh yeah, I got this. And the dog's happy. Okay? The mind is exactly the same way. Now, anybody else? Tommy's got to talk. He's been sitting back there stewing.
Listen, I'm taking all of that. The deal is, oh, I lost my train of thought.
No, you didn't. It'll come back.
To me, I was put on this earth for service. And that's a variety of ways to do that. It's not coming to Madeline's house.
No.
Doing her windows or whatever. I take it as it comes along. Whether it's the guy on the street that needs a couple bucks to get, or the lady with the flat tire, that's what I look forward every day. That's what I look for is to serve.
And you have that reputation, you do.
And when I do something like that, the gratitude is just unbelievable inside. It's a feeling that you always want to be there.
But how do you
You gotta get there first.
how do you describe that feeling?
It's just a feeling of joy and
Do you see?
peace and love and everything else
Yeah.
that's within.
Okay, and that's the key. See, these things,
It's no different if I go into meditation. The farther I go into meditation, I don't want to come back because of that feeling. It's so peaceful. It's unbelievable.
see, you're describing the effects. Okay, the key to it is the scientific rational mind says, okay, prove it to me. I want to tell me what, see, and that's an experience and a feeling. And the only way to experience a feeling is to experience the feeling. From doing it.
It overtakes your mind.
I agree.
It comes from the heart, not from the mind.
Okay. So we got ourselves into a corner now.
Practice.
See, we're right back. The process has not changed for 2,000. Well, actually, way back into Egyptian and Sumerian time. That's when this whole thing started, as far as we know. And the kingdom of heaven is within. It's the Father's good pleasure to give us the kingdom. The Father is a metaphor for the Christ within us. We have divinity with each of us. All we have to do is learn how to wake it up. The connection is through the mind, getting the mind trained to become part of that and make that gap from the physical into the heart, and keep doing it until it's there. And the roadblocks come up to keep us from going there, which is the little voice that says, I can't do it. So what's your voice, okay? My question, and I'm asking you, what is your voice? Now, we don't need to verbalize that, but what is your voice? Where you are not a fading little flower in a corner somewhere. You are a powerful human being. You are the Christ. You have the capabilities of far beyond when you find your voice. And your voice is whatever is in your heart that wants to come out. Okay? So as you can tell, I'm getting more vocal now. Valerie.
It feels like a choice in what filter you want to use.
Anyway,
Like what lens do you want to look at life through?
Yep.
You know, do you
Yep.
want to look through a lens of knowing that the Lord is love, and then that's how you're going to approach life. You make that conscious choice, but that's always your lens and that's always your filter.
Yeah.
Through which you choose to participate in how you choose to show.
see, the word is acceptance. I either have to accept that the word child of God is literal. And do I accept that, or do I go, I'm flawed, or I'm not good enough, or I don't have enough education, or I'm too old, I'm too fat, whatever it is. See, it's accepting that I am, and finding that voice, then I can just start using that. And am I gonna hide for this lifetime, or am I gonna come out? And now, even saying that, look at what my wife is looking at me. She's been dealing with this all week. Yes.
We're talking about sort of we're co-creating the world together.
Yep.
And how do I, as one part of that, change this? It seems like I'm just a little small part.
Yeah. But we're a family, and we're adding to the family. So you see, the consciousness is, anybody, look, what's happening in the world? We got cars that drive by themselves. We got all kinds of wild stuff going on. And that's consciousness increasing. It is. Okay? So how far is it going to increase? And who's going to help it increase? Okay, the question is, okay, what happens here? What's going on here? Okay, and what's going on here is, to me, this is a seed. Like, you take a seed and plant it, and what you do is you don't dig it up. Anybody agree? You don't dig, you just water it and make sure it gets sun, and look at it and say, oh, I know it's going to work. Okay, and we're in that stage. We are. So. The question is, who are you? And it's right back to what you were saying about who am I? And do I really believe that I have divinity within me? And if the biggest problem is making the next step. And the next step is start doing who I really am. Okay? Good. As you can tell, I can keep going. Anybody else want to talk? Somebody's got to have some counter ideas, no? Okay. Well, this is a work in progress. I hope you understand that. And it's like Paul was saying, you just add ideas, and once you start an idea, new ideas start coming in for that idea. It's really a form of AI at the spiritual level. So once you breach a possibility, things start coming in with it. Okay? And so that's what's happening here. So thank you very much. I'm finished.